Hello, everybody. So it looks like we got some relief in the market today. I was expecting a way more horrible day than what it ended up being. We got some relief. I am happy. Some of the channel's favorites had a good day today, had a very good day. For example, LifeMD was up 30%. That's good because in after hours it was only up 21%. Frankly, still cheap, $5.50. Who knows where it's going to be in a week or two? Is it going to be back in the $4 to $5 range again? Maybe, but this bounce was more than warranted for LifeMD. LifeMD is doing so well. If you follow this stock, you can look at my video from yesterday about it. This is the second cheapest stock in my entire spreadsheet that I share on Patreon. Supermicro finally had a good day, getting back above 40. The market is finally realizing, coming to terms with the fact that there is no accounting fraud, and the market has had a very hard time coming to terms with that. But like I said, how many times can the CEO say there's no fraud? Well, it looks like they're going to benefit from Blackwell, and NVDA was slightly up towards the end of the day, way more up in the middle of the day. Sad to see that. I actually was highly considering NVIDIA. It was getting close to my buy zone. If it were just under 100, I would get back into NVIDIA. I agree with all sorts of websites talking about, how NVIDIA remains stunningly undervalued. NVIDIA has been brutalized. Yes, I find NVIDIA, out of all of the blue chip companies, I find it the cheapest. I find it significantly cheaper than AMD, for example, even though I know AMD is heavily discussed online. Let's look at the day again. Okay, some of the losers yesterday, like I said, got technical relief. I especially want to briefly talk about Tesla. So Tesla up 5% today, down 15% yesterday. So many people saw the opportunity in Tesla. Meta was way down yesterday too, and Meta was up today as well, not as up as Tesla. I want to talk about Tesla a second. Is Tesla back to life? Well, to me, Tesla never really lost life because I'm an investor who zooms out. When I look at Tesla since 2010 until 2025, you see 41% annual return, and that 41% annual return every year for the past, let's call it 15 years, that's despite a minus 50% drop in the stock price in the past few weeks. But I know a lot of my viewers disagree with me on Tesla. I just want to say that's okay if you disagree with me. Feel free to skip that part. Tesla is one of these stocks that is overvalued, and I agree that it is very expensive, but so is Palantir, and I still own Palantir. And there's a few overvalued stocks that I still own because I want to own the best stock in each sector, and to me, the best stock in the electric vehicle sector and arguably in the AI sector with full self-driving, that best stock is Tesla, and that is by a long shot. And whenever someone is bullish on Tesla and you say that about Tesla, people will tell you, oh, BYD is better, Xiaomi is better. Well, first of all, BYD in the data, you need to parse out the hybrids. Many quarters, not all of them, but in many quarters, oftentimes they counter hybrids. That's why they come out ahead of Tesla. That's point number one. And then point number two, Xiaomi and BYD will never make it to the USA. That's a given. That's very obvious. And the EU is moving very fast to removing Xiaomi and BYD from Europe because they don't want to lose their auto manufacturer. There is a consensus forming in Europe on tariffs against Chinese vehicles, just like there has been for a long time in the US. So I don't consider the Chinese maker credible threats outside of China. In China, they are a considerable threat. But in China, we need to understand that US products carry a premium not seen by Chinese brands. I'll get that into a second, but Apple carried a premium. And in China, there's another American brand that used to carry a premium for the longest time, which was called Buick, and I'll get to that in a second. I'll talk to Buick in a second. I want to talk about some of the relief that Tesla got today on the news front, though, with the president having a press conference outside, getting a delivery of a Tesla, calling it number one, it's a great product, as good as it gets, and then he praised Elon Musk. So you have a president of the United States who buys a Tesla in front of the press. You have a president of the United States who calls Teslas and says Teslas are great cars. We are the most in the made in USA cars. You have a president of the United States who called Elon Musk a true patriot. of course you're going to lose customers. I agree that you're going to lose customers. Yes, yes. On the coast, you're going to lose customers. In Chicago, perhaps you're going to lose customers too, right? California, New York, yeah, you're going to lose some customers. But you're also going to win a lot of new customers. This will trigger sales. This will trigger sales, and sales among the conservatives, maybe sales among the independents too. If you look today, this is one of the top anchors on linear TV in the US. Obviously, I don't have linear TV. This is not my audience. I've never watched Fox News. I haven't had linear TV since 2015 or 2014. Anyways, the point is, I know this guy is heavily followed. I'm talking tens and tens of millions of people follow this guy, and he's praising Tesla, he's praising the Model S, and he had a whole interview praising it 0 to 60, blah blah blah. These are people that are followed, and you want to talk about people, I've said this before in my other videos, you want to talk about people who are the most followed people in the world. Well, this person right here, you may have heard of her. Her name is Kim Kardashian. She's top 5 most followed person on the planet, and not only has she bought a Cybertruck, but she posts these things on Instagram. She posted this video in late December, so after the election. She posted this video of her getting her best friend a Cybertruck. She posted this on Instagram, and how many followers is that? 357 million. Again, I don't have Instagram, I don't follow this stuff, but I realize that this is someone who has almost twice as big of the following of Elon Musk. Well, not quite, but almost twice as big as Elon Musk, and she's tweeting this, and she's tweeting herself, not tweeting, I don't know what they call it on Instagram, she's posting herself with a Cybertruck, and Justin Bieber, who's another heavily followed person, much more followed by Elon Musk, does the exact same thing. This is free advertising for Tesla. And of course, Buick. I'll conclude with Buick here on this one. If you think leaders endorsing cars have no impact on sales, actually think again. If you follow the early days and the earliest story of China, the last emperor of China and then a long line of leaders in China bought Buicks, and because of that, Buick was pretty much saved by China because it was considered the thing to do, because the leaders of China were driving Buicks, and then that's what everybody wanted in China. So if we think that the president of the United States endorsing a car is not going to lead to some sales, I don't know what to say. It will. Trump may not trigger as many sales as, say, a Kim Kardashian or Justin Bieber, but he very well may. And so, yes, some customers are going to be lost, but not all customers are going to be lost. There's going to be new sales, and also I would point you to the statistics that show that something close to more than 90% of Tesla buyers will only consider Teslas for their next car too. And you know what? If you don't agree with Elon, maybe all it takes to buy a Tesla is get a sticker and put a sticker on your car. I honestly don't think this is going to have much of an effect once we're done with that news cycle. The news cycle is going to move to something else. This is not the first time that we have a news cycle like this. The same news cycle, same anti-Elon Musk news cycle happened when he bought X. I remember that was the same thing. Anyways, enough about Tesla. I fully understand people who don't agree with me on Tesla, just like I fully understand people who don't agree with me on Bitcoin and who think Bitcoin is a silly thing. I totally get it. Every time I talk about Bitcoin, people tell me Bitcoin have no intrinsic value, it's going to zero. Entirely respect your opinion. I just want to talk about Bitcoin, though Bitcoin is up on the day. It's a nice day for Bitcoin today. MicroStrategy up 9% today. Volatility is alive and well for MicroStrategy. It is going to look good for their future convertible share issuances. I want to briefly talk about the miners. I find Mara and CleanSpark cheap today, especially CleanSpark. They got added to the S&P 600. They're going to get some perpetual bid. Mara's been cheaper in the past. CleanSpark's been slightly cheaper in the past, but I find it cheap right now. Similar is way down, but Similar is down for reasons unrelated to Bitcoin. Similar is down for other business reasons related to an investigation on their QuantaFlow device. So I would consider the market cap to Bitcoin NAV for Similar to not be very meaningful at this point. Let me move on quickly to the CPI. So we've gone through Tuesday. I thought it would be bad. I was wrong. Let's see what happened Wednesday. We're bracing for the CPI tomorrow. And, CPI moves market one way or the other. And that's going to have a lot of impact on the Fed tracker. So it will be a good idea to check the Fed tracker and see if we're getting that May rate cut or not. I think that will depend based on the CPI. Of course, you want the CPI to be as low as possible. You want inflation to be as low as possible. Because if it does, that means the Fed may be more likely to cut rates. That's how the stock market thinks. And let me now move on to the actual news of the day on tariffs, on peace. And I think this is what, as a whole, triggered the Nasdaq up, the S&P up, kind of helped the market today. There's two things. One thing about tariff, one thing about peace in Ukraine. So the first thing about today, is the bounce was so-so, but the news was more impressive than the bounce, quite frankly, today. And just like I said before, in my view, tariffs is just going to be tit for tat, and we're not going to have much in the way of tariffs. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, most tariffs have been postponed until April 2nd. And that is the second time that most tariffs are postponed. So do we really think they're not going to be postponed again? I think they will be postponed again, just like they were in 2018, 2017. So if you've been following this tariff story, which frankly to me has been an unsavory story to follow. It annoys me. But I remember a few weeks ago, was it now, people were screaming, let's surtax the power, let's cut the power to Michigan, let's freeze Michigan, let's go. And I'm assuming these ex-posts came from Canada. And then on the other side, it was no better. It was like, oh, let's tax their auto sector, let's try to go after their autos, they're shipping their autos. And today we had an escalation which led to a suspension of kind of the trade tensions, because today you had Trump raises Canadian steel and aluminum tariffs in retaliation for Ontario's electricity prices. And then in the afternoon, the Ontario head calls Secretary Lutnick, and they agree to postpone their raises, and they agree to just engage in trade talks. And so, it's a tit for tat that led to nowhere. It just creates headlines, just creates news. It's like, okay, so the US figured out that a lot of the steel industry was in Ontario, so they were like, okay, well, we're going to raise the tariffs 50% to Ontario. It's a tit for tat because, of course, Ontario figured out that a lot of power used in the northern of the United States, where it gets really cold, that power comes from Canada. And then you realize that countries are interdependent from each other and nothing happens. It just creates a new cycle. This is my ongoing take on tariffs. It's all going to be just a new cycle story. Just like it was 7 years ago. You may remember 7 years ago, lots of discussions, lots of talk about tariffs. The only thing concrete we got was, a little more complex than this, but I'm simplifying for the sake of argument here. The main thing we got is that the US taxed wine and the European Union taxed orange juice and jeans. Like, give me a break. Like, it's like, because Florida has orange juice, and I guess there's some luxury jeans in California. Like, at the end of the day, this is not going to be very meaningful. That is my take. I may be wrong, just like I may be wrong about Tesla, just like I may be wrong about Bitcoin, just like I may be wrong about HIMS or anything. But that's my take on this. And then let's talk about, I think, what really raised the market today. And some of this news is as early as 1 hour ago, is the whole thing that the peace talks that took place in Saudi Arabia went very well. The leader of Ukraine accepted a 30-day ceasefire. And that was like a ceasefire and an air ceasefire. And apparently Trump just invited the head of Ukraine back to the White House to sign something. And so I think this is the positive news, especially if this is going somewhere else. And also the U.S. resumed military assistance. So I think a lot of the hate is going to subside now that this is happening. A lot of the discourse in the social media, at least I hope. And the government shutdown. As for the government shutdown, this is just journalists making noise. It happens all the time, every year, every 6 months, every 2 years, depending on how you look. That government shutdown discussion happening every 6 months is the main reason why the USA debt is not AAA, because you always have a politician who threatens to not vote because they want to get their way, but at the end of the day, they always end up voting in favor of the budget. So anyways, that's just my take on all of the macro topics today. This was not financial advice, not investment advice, not tariff advice, just entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.